The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of the streaming platforms, public access channels, the Kitty Rose lifestyle, or the program underwriters.
Tim's on my feet, stomping out the negativity. Everybody not a friend of me. Spread the love, still I move deliberately. Bully face on, but the smile be heavenly. Brooklyn girls, so they love the energy. Love sincerity, so I take the liberty to take them on a journey lyrically. Through hallways and alleys, dark days.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the next chapter where we discuss Shades of Grey. I am your host, Minister Cat, aka Kitty Rose. And hey, happy October, happy fall. It's sweater weather. I told you last week I love sweater weather. So, what is this week's topic of the week? Let's get right into it. This week's topic of the week is, drum roll please, what does success look like? What does success look like? About a year ago, Melissa and I had a topic where we talked about what is an overnight success. Going forward now, I want to discuss what does success actually look like in one's life. When I was doing the research for today's show, in my notes, I had put the following. What does being successful mean to you? Today, we are going to explore how to define what success looks like in your life and focus on what matters most. And for everyone, that means different things. I was having this conversation with my significant other a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about how his job necessarily doesn't bring him a level of success because that's a monetary situation that you provide a service, you get paid. But what gives him joy in that particular job is when he gets a side note or a thank you from a client or a text from a client or just something a little separate, extra, where a client acknowledges the assistance he provides. And that type of appreciation brings life and joy and fulfillment to his heart. So not necessarily the job itself, which is something that does make him happy, but what happens in connection to the job makes someone feel rich. There's a video a couple of years ago that I had saw where Bob Marley was talking about what makes him feel rich or what makes him feel successful. And he said life, living, being amongst people is what made him happy or made him feel successful. And a lot of times I think we equate money with success. We commit fame to success. But how many, we could list the name or numbers of people who are financially successful and yet are not happy or fulfilled and ends up committing suicide. Is that success because financially they showed success? When you think of the word success, what image comes to your mind? As you can see, we have our Facebook group page listed, and I encourage you all to join us there so that you can be involved in the conversations that I'm going to be having with you every week. Even though this is a talk show that, I do most of the talking, this is still an engagement opportunity for us as a community to come together to heal each other through experiences and information. So most people think of success as wealth, fame, happiness, or some kind of combination. The culture places a big emphasis on making money and defining success by how much you own. Advertising messages communicate that having certain luxury brands is a definition of success. How you define success has a big impact on your goals and your life. It drives the decisions that you make and reflects what you value. Instead of thinking of success as an awkward appearance, defining what success in your life is much more about knowing what is important to you. What's important to most is being able to meet one's needs, being financially secure, being able to adequately juggle family, community, and work life, being able to participate in things one wants to participate. I have been encouraging that since the beginning of my life on social media or my life in the world. Living out loud, living on your terms. But according to my research, let's see what some of the videos I found had to say. Let's go to our first video and we'll come back and talk about it.
Success. We use this word a lot, but what does it really mean? Does it mean having a lot of money or being famous? Perhaps it is helping out thousands of people overcoming poverty. Or is it simply being a good father or mother? What is success?
What is success? I know for me, being a good parent does fill my heart and does make me feel a level of success in that area of my life. I saw a post on TikTok and I reposted on Instagram where this gentleman said that being successful is when your children want to come back home. Let's go to the second half of that video.
This shows that being successful is subjective. To you, success may mean one thing, but not the same as another. But the worst part is that we are putting our expectation of success on others, and that is dangerous. Especially when parents force their perception of success onto their children. Success is about doing your best. And most of all, success is not a one-size-fits-all. It is something that every person can design for themselves. It is about unlocking your true potential within.
I discovered the 8 traits successful people have in common, or the 8 to be great. Love what you do. Work really hard. Focus on one thing, not everything. Keep pushing yourself. Come up with good ideas. Keep improving yourself in what you do. Serve others something of value, because success isn't just about me. And persist, because there's no overnight success.
Me. But isn't the world about you? But I understand that concept of the world doesn't evolve around you. I think for myself, I can be a true testament that the world of service has been extremely rewarding for me. So I can understand that concept of serving others. But I can also understand the goal of focusing, and success is doing your best in whatever you decide to do. And I think that that's what's sometimes unreachable. A lot of times we find ourselves doing what we are taught, or what our parents, or what we're influenced by the world of what success. So we might go in those directions when it comes to our education, and may go in those directions when it comes to what we do after our education, not really being driven by what we innately want to do, being almost fearful that what we want to do may not, make us rich and famous, make us financially sustainable. Now, when it comes to being financially sustainable, is that the be-all, end-all to defining what success is? I think when we talk about, the level of financial stability or financial education, I know at 49, I know how to manage money a whole lot better than I did at 25 or even 29. So I think that you can have certain goals and aspirations that you get to live out, but you do in levels or different stages come to different understandings of how to manage that level of what is successful to you. I've had the Kitty Rose lifestyle since 2006. That right there in itself at 2023 is a level of success because I've been consistently been able to be somewhat self-sufficient for my day-to-day life and the day-to-day raising of my children. Having that kind of decision making, having that kind of power in the decisions I've made in my head have made me feel successful, because how many of us get to actually do what it is that we want to do, no matter what that looks like, good, bad, or indifferent? Every decision that I've made since leaving corporate, whether I like what has happened as a result of those decisions, has still been my decisions. On that note, let's take a break.
If you're buzzed and doing this, to make yourself feel okay to drive,
ZWX.
you're not okay to drive.
YGKLVW. Regular you.
Being prepared is a part of who you are, but it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you'll go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
Now, don't get it wrong. Throughout the time that I've made my own decisions in running my own business, has there not been times that I was like, ah? Of course there have. But again, what I have found pleasurable or successful is that they were still my decisions. Even now, going forward in my life, when I think of regrets, there isn't any regrets, because ultimately, again, every decision that has brought me here was a decision that I was able to make on my own. So for me, that's a level of success, because I've kind of been able to control and dictate what I've wanted to do in my life. And one of those main things was parenting. And it wasn't always that way. You know, before I became a parent, I was in the entertainment industry. I was a model, I was a dancer, I was a stylist. My goal was to be a wardrobe stylist for a television show or for a sitcom or things, you know, an hour show. Like, I wanted to do the wardrobe. That was where I was leading before I became a parent. And once I became a parent, I even struggled with that. I didn't want to be a parent. I was, 21 years old, and I had already, in my head, been so involved in taking care of my younger siblings that I wasn't looking to be a parent at such a young age. And about a year and a half into parenting, something changed within me, and that became like my focal point. And now 20-something odd years later, or 28 years later, my biggest result or my biggest accomplishment so far has been the nurturing that I've done with my 3 children. And I've liked the people that they are becoming and the people that they have become. So for me, that is a level of success, because I've gotten to see that all of the hard work that I thought I was sacrificing, I really wasn't, because I was able to plant those seeds with other individuals to make successful people out here in the world. And now at 49, I get to kind of, with knowledge now of self and understanding on how to navigate and use money and understand people and myself, now I'm in this next chapter where I feel like, wow, I'm excited. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to see now what the next chapter, the next successes of my life looks like, because now I have a different type of knowledge that I didn't have before in my 20s that I can now push forward with in my going into 50s, you know? There was a second video that I wanted to share with you guys where it talked about how do you measure success. And I thought that that was very interesting because it talks about the metrics we have to measure success aren't wrong, just incomplete. What do they mean? Let's check out that video and we'll come back.
The metrics that we have are not wrong. They're just incomplete, right? The standard metrics that we have to measure our own success in our companies, profits and revenues, EBITDA, whatever you want to use, and the standard metrics we use to measure our own wealth, there's nothing wrong with those. They're just incomplete. That's like saying, you know, when I chose to marry her, she's really good looking. Important. And is she a good person? Does she bring the best out in me? You know? How is she in times of stress? Like, will she look after me? Will I look after her? Will she let me help her? You know? In other words, there's more to it, and it's the same for businesses. So what I'm learning to do is to understand those balancing metrics.
Balance. I thought that that was key to understanding how to measure success. What we look to or how we balance the things that are important versus or with the things that need to make those things that are important become important or be successful in the goal of what's important to us. What I enjoyed, was learning how the gentleman had mentioned about being a good person. Like, we could be attractive to people, but what does that inside look like? Does that person bring out the best out of us? I'm sorry, folks, my earpiece keeps coming out today. And I noticed that for me, when it came to my significant others, those were traits that I was looking for, but always didn't find them. Not to say that the persons weren't good partners to me, but did they bring the best out of me, or was my relationship one-sided where I gave more but didn't receive what I needed? And I think sometimes when we think of success in regards to relationships, we think being in a relationship is what's successful. Oh, me and my partner have been together 5, 10, 15, 20, yada, yada plus years. But how successful are things or a relationship if 10 out of those years that you're together, you don't talk to each other, you don't touch each other, you don't know or find out what your love languages are? See, I think success is work. Success is constant evolving of understanding how one's needs change as they evolve as a person. The things that might have made me feel successful in my 20s, not obviously, are not the same things that I look to equate my success now going into my 50s. I'm a lot more calmer in my life than I was in my 20s, where I was just looking for quick, instant gratification. I was loving being around people all the time and use the energy of people to fulfill me and to, make me feel useful. But as I've gotten older, the less I want to be around people. And don't take that the wrong way, because I love people and I do still feed off of people. That's why I go to Soul Summit, because there's something about the energy of all of us dancing amongst each other that's exciting and feeding to me. But outside of those chosen experiences, I'm most content at home by myself. Even though I just got over quarantine And being isolated by myself for 8 days was horrible. But because there was a level of satisfaction and happiness with myself, those 8 days weren't horrible, because I still had loved ones check on me, even though for those first 3 days I could barely talk to people. But just the idea that there were loved ones out there that wanted to check on me, wanted to see me, I wasn't totally isolated. But I was, because I had to be quarantined, and I realized how much I was missing human contact. And I think that's what happened to us over COVID, which is why the depression rate went up. Because people needed that human connection. People needed to feel people's energies. As much as they are wanting to stay away from folks, again, it's based off of your decision of wanting to stay away from folks and your decisions of wanting to be around. And I think that's what always comes back to what my message is to everyone. Making everything you do your decision. And then what your decisions are, following through and being consistent in that. Because if you give up on what you initially want to do in life, then the level of success can be altered because you didn't stay the course. You didn't remain faithful. The last 2 years, man, of my life has really been an interesting one because it's been extremely difficult financially. But on so many other levels, it's been the most rewarding because the last 2 or 3 years has also been the most that I've done in traveling. Getting the opportunity to even film certain events and experiences throughout New York. Being able to go to different Broadway shows and represent art and culture here in New York as a public access producer. Being awarded and recognized for the work that I've put in, for the work that we here at the Next Chapter have put in the last 2 years. So financially, have I been rewarded? Enough to pay my bills, but financially, I have been at a zero. And that doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good to wake up, put in the work, but your bank account doesn't match what you're doing. But I have to say again, being consistent and staying the course. Now, 2 years later, I was able to, after this summer, performing I Am You, my one-woman show in Harlem. I made some money from that. And now I come into my 3rd season of the Next Chapter with a game plan of going to the next level. Now I'm also working as an instructor once again in education, working with freshmen, ideally what I've been praying for. Working with freshmen where I get to now be a part of their 4-year journey before they enter the world. Teaching, this is funny, social and emotional development through the Community Initiative of New York. And the funny thing about that is I got that position based off of showing up, being at these monthly town hall meetings, presenting whatever workshops, programs, events that I was a part of during the summer of 2023. And in all those moments of feeling like, wow, when is it gonna hit? When is it gonna happen? Never always knowing and realizing how people are watching you. And when the season is ready for you, that's what the harvest is. Then you get to see the seeds that you have planted. And now 2.5 years later, my bank account got some money back in there. I'm back up to date with my bills. And I see a light. Woo, child. I see a light. So for me, does that equate success because I was able to stay the course? Man, staying the course, I believe, is the key to success, because success is not something that happens overnight. Whether it's success in family, whether it's success in business, whether it's success in romance, whether it's success in health, whether it's success even in your faith. It does not happen overnight. It takes a build up of learning, accepting, understanding, and embracing, so that when these things happen in your life, you get to see it and move forward in the glory of God and the glory of your existence of being happy in that success. On that note, let's take another break.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. I love you. And my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
I'm an actor in an ad that was given 12 seconds to remind you that if you're high, just don't drive. Because if you feel different, you drive different. It's illegal to drive high everywhere anyway.
I want to know what you think. Please visit our Facebook group page and share your thoughts as I am sharing my thoughts and experiences of what I'm learning in this life that I have thus far. You know, I'm not really sure about reincarnation. So I don't know if I'm going to be here or if I've been here before. All I know is what's now and what's present. And again, for me, I wanted to make a list of everyone in the last 10, 15 years that in our minds we thought was successful but ended up committing suicide. And I think because, again, you know, we connect fame and we connect money to success, and sometimes not realizing that fame comes with its own burden. Money even comes with its own burden if we don't understand how to use it. Our relationships, the things that we look for, a man, a woman, you know, being complete in a romantic situation. If you're not happy with yourself, how can you be happy and successful in a relationship? And I think it takes time for us to be happy with ourselves. I don't think we just come out the womb and, you know, go through our teens and our 20s and we're like, yeah, I love myself. I think we love ourselves, but how much in our 20s do we understand ourselves? So how successful can we be in our 20s when we're still understanding who we are? Now, let me take a moment and think about my children who are all in their 20s, because my daughter just became 20. At 20 years old, is she successful? Well, let's take a look. She's a full-time college student on her own, handling her financial endeavors and responsibilities. She pays her own way, she pays her own bills, and she pays for the extra things she wants in life, like her nails, her hair, her lashes, the things that she feels or makes her feel pretty or feels good, her area of self-care. Now, being able to be conscious of that at 20, I think is a level of success, because I know that I wasn't taking that type of time in my own self-care to make those things happen for me at 20, because at 20, I was still chasing my career or what I thought I wanted in a career. And then a year later, at 20, I got pregnant. So I had to shift in the direction I was going in. Now, my son at 25, who is just graduating, got his master's, now in education, a math teacher, loves where he lives, again, financially taking care of that on his own, lives in Harlem, has a extremely important and loving friend group that supports him, that has been supporting him, that opens his world to things that maybe a pigeonhole black activist social mom may keep him away from. But his friend group has opened his door, opened his mind to so many opportunities that I might have closed off, being pigeonholed in the way that I think. Is that successful at 25, knowing already what you want to do, how you want to do, and making those things happen? And again, at 25, I was on my second child, married, but now a new young married woman with 2 small children. How much did I still know about myself to be active if my full focus at the time was raising small children and being a new wife? Was I happy? Was I successful? On some levels. But how successful could I be juggling learning about myself, being someone's wife, being someone's mother, and then we decided to also be business owners. So I now look at my oldest son at 28, who is in a successful relationship with his partner, knows that he doesn't want to live in New York, has made a conscious decision to live down south and stay down south and learn how to be a businessman in the South when it comes to learning real estate and relationships with folks in the South. None of my children currently are parents. Is that good? Is that bad? On some level, I think it's good because they get to focus just on themselves still in their 20s. And in my head, I think that that will fortify them in their 30s when they do become parents, if they become parents, but also in their adult now life, because in their 20s, they kind of got a chance to juggle what worked or didn't work for them and now go into their 30s with a game plan based on the success that they had in their 20s. I don't know if all of us now at 40, in our 40s, getting into our 50s, that were young parents can say the same thing. But the work that we put into parenting these beautiful, educated, self-aware young adults came from the work that we as young parents put in. And now that we have young adults that kind of can learn to figure out things on their own, now we, going through these next chapters as empty nesters, get a chance to have life in such a different success because now it becomes all about us. Now my life becomes all about me. And my life becomes all about me with a different clarity that I didn't have in my 20s, that I didn't have in my 30s. I really did not start to come into until my 40s when I got that light bulb moment. And as beautiful as that light bulb moment it was, I'm so grateful that my children, as adults now, have gotten their, not light bulb moment, but their glimpse into a level of happiness because of the level of decision makings that they have been in control of. Does that make sense? So again, it goes back to the decisions that you're able to make in life. Whether that's whatever job you choose, a city job, a non-traditional job, a corporate job, making the decisions that are yours. When you make a decision to extend your education, is that based off of what you want to do or what you think you're supposed to do or what your parents are encouraging you to do? Because whether you go to college, that debt, whether it's on you or your parents, is a debt that does not go away. So doesn't it make sense to be in debt with something that you actually enjoy doing? Let's take a break.
You know, a lot of people say when you're going somewhere, you don't want to look back. But I beg to differ. I can't lie and say it was easy. I looked at everything in a different light. I realized it started with me going back and getting my high school diploma.
Dear moms and dads, what you have achieved here today is going to help us and our futures. It is why we are coming up on stage to collect your diplomas.
You know it's true.
Mom, we love you always.
Everything I do,
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
Wow. So on that note, I hope I didn't ramble off. I hope that you understand that the main point I was talking about is measuring success based off of what you choose to do in your life. The decisions that you make and being consistent and staying the course with those decisions brings you true happiness. When we get distracted or when we get discouraged, that takes us off our path, usually that is when we're supposed to be on that path. They always say that the devil come at you when you are on the road to righteousness. And that if you're not on that road is actually how, you get left alone. But when you are consciously making a decision to be a good person, when you are consciously making a decision to live a righteous life, you're going to be attacked. And those attacks sometimes are the things that say, ooh, this is not for me. And then it takes us off course, and then our level of success changes because, we want to do something easy. We want to do something that, doesn't hurt as much. Or something quick, because this patience thing is not allowing me to be patient enough. So that takes me into my Jesus moment. Oh, Jesus. When the scriptures guided my thoughts and wanting to come to you about the full circle of what my Jesus moment was. My Jesus moment was, the book of James once again. The book of James, that first chapter, verse 17. I had it on my phone and I don't have my phone next to me, but it talked about staying true to your values and taking meaningful actions towards your own value goals. It actually had another reference of when you stay the course, the rewards that Jehovah God continues to bless you. Because she knows that staying the course is not easy. So that Holy Spirit that guides you along the way allows you also to remain faithful because you need that extra strength to stay the course. Staying the course on your own understanding doesn't always work. I can attest to that. But having the Holy Spirit, having the scriptures, having that relationship with Jehovah, I'm telling you folks, has allowed me. I have been responsible for my life somewhat since the age of 16. And from 16, when I left my grandmother's home at 17 years old, I have made every decision I've wanted to make with the guidance of Jehovah's Holy Spirit. And because of that is why I have to say I've been blessed, not only with the result of the relationship I have with my children, but with all the things that I've been able to do in my life professionally, employed by others, and self-employed by myself. I'm a testimony. My life has showed up that way. That's why I speak from what I know, because it's happened to me in my own life. So I have to constantly remind myself that even when I think I'm in the low, that I'm not, because I'm covered. So even in the low, even in the midst of, woof, what do I do next? Am I alone? When is it going to give? When is it going to change? I'm reminded that, girl, he has brought you this far and he is not done. Amen. Hallelujah. All right, guys, it's time for the Did You Know? 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 Did you like last week's Did You Know? Did you know last week when we had our health tips? This week's Did You Know is know your rights. Know your rights. Know your rights. Now, this is a broad topic, but Fiz, I'm going to help you with some information that I was able to Google, just some basic 9 things that you might not know or you might know and not have clarity on. And again, I want to make a disclaimer. I am not a lawyer. I looked up the following information the same way that you can, or you can call your local law offices to ask questions that you are unsure about. I also want to say that the information contained was from an article that was offered through YouTube for educational purposes only. This information is not offered as legal advice. A person accused of a crime should always consult with an attorney before making decisions that have legal consequences. So that's my disclaimer. I am not a lawyer, but I wanted to share some things that I found interesting that I wanted to share with you guys about knowing your rights. So let's get right into it. 1, you have the right to consult with You have the right to consult with an attorney before answering any questions from the police. To invoke that right, clearly tell the officers you want to speak to a lawyer. Just like on TV, police are required to stop questioning until your attorney arrives. Even if you don't have one, say, I want a lawyer. You do not have to speak to the police when stopped or asked questions without a lawyer being present. In New York, you do not, 2. In New York, you are not required to carry ID, okay? And if you don't have it, even if you do have it, you are not required to have to show your ID to the police officer. If you are issued a summons or arrested, however, and you refuse to produce ID or tell officers who you are, the police may detain you until you can be positively identified. But that doesn't mean you have to give up your identity. Now, I just want to do another sidebar or disclaimer. Unfortunately, these Did You Know Your Rights apply to every male and female living within the United States, regardless of what your race, creed, or culture is. Unfortunately, these Know Your Right tips may not always apply to people of African American descent, people of color. This, I hate to say, may only apply to white folks because white folks are taught these things that they don't have to do, and they actually use it. And sometimes, we like to say, well, white folks are uppity because they use what they know are their rights. And then we as black folks are just 9 out of 10 times scared when we get stopped by a police officer. So we're not moving in clarity of knowing that we can say this and we can say that. We're moving in fearful of our life that if we show any level of what they might say is disrespect, that could be the end of our life. So unfortunately, in this day and age that we live in, yes, these are tips that we have as citizens or Americans but unfortunately, they don't always fly with the color of your skin. So please be careful in knowing your rights. And unfortunately, hopefully, if you're ever in a position to have to deal with the interaction of the police, that it doesn't go to the left. Let's go to number 3. Number 3, if you're stopped by an officer and you're in your car, you do not have to roll your window down for the police in New York. More often than not, you will be asked to present your ID, proof of insurance and registration, during a traffic stop. And in order to get those items into the officer's hands and to effectively hear each other, you have to roll your window down. But you are not required to roll your window all the way down. Did you know that? I didn't. Number 4, police cannot enter your residence without a warrant. We know that that has not been successful in a lot of our homes. Except in certain rare circumstances, such as if they see evidence of illegal activity, police cannot enter your home without your consent or without a warrant. So they can knock on your door. If you even choose to open the door, they are not allowed inside your home without a warrant or without your consent. Number 5, you have the right to film or photograph a police officer. Yeah, you have the right to film or photograph a police officer. If you are at an outdoor public space or even private property with the property's owner's permission, you are allowed to film or photograph a police officer. They cannot legally command you not to. And they need a warrant to request to view your videos or photographs. Did you get that? They need a warrant to request to see what you're videotaping of them or photographs you take of them. You have the right to film or photograph a police officer. Number 6, police officers can lie. Now, did you know this? Because I didn't. Police officers can lie to you about having evidence. Police officers are allowed to lie about the evidence that they have, such as your DNA, evidence at the scene of a crime, to try to get you to confess. Courts have repeatedly held that deliberate deception by law enforcement as fair, as long as it is unlikely to result in a forced confession. 7, we're almost done. You have the right to look at a search warrant. So when they knock on your door and they say they have a search warrant, before you let them in, you can say, "Excuse me, I would like to read that." If the police comes to your residence with a search warrant, you have the right to read it. The police are only allowed to search the places specified in that warrant. And finally, number 8, you can refuse consent to a search. You can refuse consent to a search. You are never required to consent to a search. If the police ask to search your vehicle, person, or residence, but do not have a warrant, you can tell them you do not consent. Also, if you have consented to a search and the police damage your property, it is unlikely that you will be compensated because you gave them permission to perform this search. So be mindful. You don't have to say yes and you can refuse. Once again, I am not a lawyer. Please, this information was for educational purposes only. If you find yourself needing direct counsel, then find a lawyer and ask these very same questions that I've presented to you. But it's important for us to walk around here knowing there is some level of rights that we have as American citizens. And we should know what they are because they're not always taught to us on purpose. So unfortunately, we have to be each other's keeper, educate, teach, inform one another so that we can maneuver out here in these streets based off of things that's not being taught to us. Woo, child. All right. On that note, we're going to take our last break for the evening and then come back with our inbox questions. Let's take another break.
You know, a lot of people say when you're going somewhere, you don't want to look back. But I beg to differ. I can't lie and say it was easy. I looked at everything in a different light. I realized it started with me going back and getting my high school diploma.
Dear moms and dads, what you have achieved here today is going to help us and our futures. It is why we are coming up on stage to collect your diplomas.
You know it's true.
Mom, we love you always.
Everything I do.
When you graduate, they graduate. Visit finishyourdiploma.org to find free and supportive adult education centers near you.
Yes. So, what is this week's inbox question? In order for us to know what the inbox questions are each week, I need you guys to go to our Facebook group page and submit those questions to be asked and answered on air. So this week's inbox question came from Pauline from Brooklyn, Brooknam. Pauline said, what was your takeaway from last week's show with Cornell's check-in? So last week's show with Cornell's check-in was parenting adult children. And what my takeaway was tone. Communication is key. Understanding is key. But tone is important because the whole conversation was based off of changing our tone to meet our children where they currently are. And if my children are now adults, no matter how I may not want to see and accept it, I can't talk to them as they were children. One, that's disrespectful. So in order for my message to get across, talking to my adult children, I have to be mindful of the tone in which I deliver my messages or my love or my concern or my encouragement or all that good stuff that I think I'm instilling on them. So that was my takeaway. Thank you, Pauline from Brooklyn. I encourage you all to join our Facebook group page at The Next Chapter on Facebook and keep bringing those questions in. Like I keep saying, this is a community effort. This is a public access television show that we as Bronx residents get the education and training to learn how to produce content to bring to you each week, each month, or however we decide to, tape and record and air our shows. But for me, in the next chapter, I know that I'm not just going through the next chapter alone. I know that you all are going through various next chapters of your life, and the best way that I'm able to give you all information is based off of the information I also receive from you guys. So please continue to follow me online and do this part of the show that you know is not my favorite, but is essential. And that is follow, like, and share. Follow, like, and share. I air The Next Chapter every Saturday here at BronxNet at 11 p.m. on Channel 68 and Channel 2133. And then the following weeks, we air on Brick Television and we air on Manhattan Neighborhood. And you can always catch me on my YouTube channel. However, in order to keep this machine going, I need you guys to give me feedback by subscribing to my YouTube channel, by subscribing to my online presence, and by following this show each week, because your guidance and encouragement when you see me in the street keeps me going. Last night I was shopping in my local CC and the cashier was like, aren't you that girl on BronxNet? I enjoy your show. You know how much that feels good? And not only does it feel good when you guys stop me, it validates when I'm around people like my beau or my children that there are people watching and that there are people encouraged. Sometimes people think that you just want to hear yourself talk, that you just want to, have a platform that you can just be a narcissist on, not understanding that your course may not be one of understanding for everyone, but who does get it will get it. And they will show, I had to take that out, and they will show their gratitude in what you do by acknowledging and confronting you, or following, liking, and share what you do each week on social media. Wow, that is the end of technically our third show in our third season, but our second show airing in our third season. Again, based off all of the love and support that you all give us each week here at the Next Chapter, where we discuss Shades of Grey weekly on New York Public Access Television. Follow me on social media, once again on my IG and on my YouTube, to kind of get behind the scenes little things that we do here at the studio. I like to show you guys the success of the show and how it's growing by also showing you the behind the scenes of how we develop and produce this show each week. Because all you guys see is the end result and say, oh, that was beautiful and that was smooth. And for the most part, it is. But there are things that happen in the back end that also keeps you encouraged to be discouraged, in your discouragement to get encouraged. Did you follow that? Did you get that? Did you understand that? So in that's why it's important for you guys to go to our Facebook group page, because then you get to see those behind the scenes things more up close and personal, and then get to comment on them and share those experiences of what other fellow Access producers are going through or learning or sharing with me to improve on what it is that I'm doing. I think that's it, guys. We had we had a full hour once again with just little old me. I hope you guys are not getting tired of just having an hour of me. But I am enjoying this ride with you all, and I'm looking forward to bringing these new shows to you guys for the new season. I'm looking forward to winning some more awards based off of the content that we bring to you every week, to be an encouragement and to be a light for you, so that you understand that you're not alone in these next chapters. You can have a village of brothers and sisters of like-minded values that you can be lifted by, along with the Holy Spirit. So on that note, this is your girl, Minister Cat, a.k.a. Kitty Rose, and I am coming from you from the Next Chapter, where we discuss Shades of Grey. Until next week, continue to be safe out there. Peace, everyone. Bye.
Dark days I carry, sharp pains and bellies. All days be heavy when you're programmed to survive. Legendary ciphers get the MCs and the jobs. The city never sleeps, slept from 1 to 5. When COVID hit the block and we had to stay inside. Tough love is all I know, so be gentle with my soul. Learn to navigate winters with no coat. If you never been cold, you never been broke. Hustle 24/7 just to stay afloat. So New York, like dollar pizza in the cold. What shit? That real life grit from the heart of the city is as hard as it gets. This that New York shit. That real life grit from the heart of the city is as hard as it gets. This that New York shit. That real life grit from the heart of the city is as hard as it gets. This that New York shit. That real life grit from the heart of the city.